Hello, in this video I'm going to share with you my experience with the awful disease of Marek's. It affects chickens and it almost at one point caused me to give up on something that I absolutely love and am passionate about. I've had chickens for a few years now and I started off making a mistake. I got chickens from anywhere and everywhere. I was rescuing them from a zoo. I would see chickens available on Facebook. I was getting them from places where clearly I wasn't sure of the background and I didn't know if they were healthy or not. And after only a couple months, I noticed that some of my birds were limping, and I started taking them to a vet, and they said that maybe they were getting injured because I live in a small area and the vet had never dealt with Marek's disease before. And so you might recall, if you've seen my other videos and you watched my coop tour, that there really isn't anywhere for them to get injured and it's pretty safe out there. So I was a little skeptical, and after the third limping chicken, I decided to do my own research. So I looked online and I checked the symptoms, and sure enough, it seemed like it was Marek's disease. And so I asked them, how can we be sure? And they said that you have to do a necropsy, which is sending in a dead bird to have testing done to see if it's truly Marek's disease. So I'm from Wisconsin, and the necropsies are sent to the UW-Madison University. If you too are from Wisconsin and you need to have such testing done, you can contact me on my email that's on my channel information page, or you can go to my Facebook page called The Homeopathic Chicken and send me a message, because I have the exact direct phone number that you need to call before sending in a sample. So after that was done and the results came back, and it was verified that indeed I was dealing with the awful Marek's disease, which people say there is no cure. It's fatal unless it's ocular Marek's, which is found in the eye. You will see misshapen pupils and the eye won't look right. They will survive that. However, the other type of Marek's is usually fatal. I decided I was going to be proactive. I had two choices at that point. I was either going to have to give up on everything. People were telling me, you have to go out there and you have to burn down your coop, wait a few years, wait till after you have some winters that are way below zero to kill off some of that virus that's on the surfaces and completely start over. Well, I gotta tell you, my husband spent several thousands of dollars building these extravagant coops. I loved my birds. They all had names. I either give up or I try something. And so I did all the research I could. I spent not just hours, but days and weeks doing research. I talked to different veterinary doctors. I talked to lab technicians. I called at least 3 to 4 different hatcheries. I even called the companies that manufacture the Marek's vaccines, trying to learn everything I could about the disease and about what I could do, rather than giving up. So, one important fact that I didn't know previous to this is there's 3 different kinds of Marek's vaccines. There is something called HVT bursal, which is serotype 3. That's your basic, standard vaccine. That's the type of vaccine that you're going to get from farm animal supply companies and things like that. That is the most commonly used one at hatcheries. Now, when I decided down the road that I was going to try to have chicks again, I had to find the hatchery that used the best vaccine out there. The second vaccine, serotype 1, Rispens, is the strongest one out there. Serotype 2, SB1, is your main middle-of-the-road medium vaccine. That's most commonly used for broiler birds and things of that sort. Now, if you want the best option and the strongest option, you go with HVT plus Rispens. So that's the hatchery that I used. I'll get to my experience with chicks a little down the road here. But firstly, I read a couple stories about people that tried different homeopathic things, different vitamins and minerals, to see if that would help stop the virus and save their birds. There's one story that if you do a search on, look for Penelope the chicken. There's this wonderful woman over in New York where she rescues some birds from a religious ceremony that they do. I won't get into detail about that, but I'll just say it's a ceremony where they massacre hundreds, maybe even, 1,000, whatever, chickens on public streets and sacrifice, I guess, So anyways, her and some other folks, kind-hearted people, will go and rescue those birds. Some of them do whatever they can. Well, one that she took was limping and showing the classic signs of Marek's disease. And she took it to the vet. Of course, they said, there's no hope. Recommended euthanasia. And she had the same options I did, give up or try something. So she used a combination of colloidal silver and what is mainly found in St. John's wort, and she actually saved that bird. It gradually stopped limping, lived a normal, completely normal life. I have read that this has also worked for other people. Now, I just personally use the St. John's wort with the colloidal silver. Now, you have to, if you're going to try this method, you have to give those two minerals 4 hours apart from each other, because when the St. John's wort comes into contact with trace metals, it can deactivate itself. So, you want to be sure that you don't give those too close together. Now, some people will just take a medicine dropper and put a few drops in the beak, gently pull down on the wattles or try to get it in the beak there. That you have to be really, really careful with, because if it goes down the wrong way, down the throat, it can get into their lungs, and then you've got a whole nother set of problems. With the St. John's wort, some of the chickens will actually just drink it. They don't mind the taste of it. I have myself just put it in a glass, and they'll just drink it right up. You don't want them to drink a lot of it, just, a few sips of it. If you're doing the dropper method, it's 4 to 9 drops in the beak. The colloidal silver, same amount. With that, they don't really like the taste of that, but it's not real strong. So what I do with that is I just put about 4 to 6 drops on a little piece of bread, and then they just eat the bread. So that it isn't too difficult to try that method. Again, it has worked for some people. It worked for Penelope the chicken. Do a search online. I actually do that in conjunction with another method. During the research that I did, I came across a veterinary lab technician from the UK that experimented with vitamins and minerals, and he actually, by doing his experiments, saved 4 out of 5 dogs that were dying from parvo. So in reading this person's story, I felt like they knew what they were talking about, and they used this method that I'm going to show you on that person's chicken that had Marek's disease. Again, started walking normally, lived a normal life. But there's some things that you have to really pay attention to, because if you're doing these methods and there's another underlying issue, be it worms, coccidiosis, any sort of respiratory issues, any ailments, that will bring down the immune system. If they have other problems, these methods might not work. Another important thing to keep in mind is that this takes a lot of time. Sometimes these vitamins can get costly, and it takes some work to give them these things. What I do now, since I have had luck with these things, I mix a batch of this other remedy I'll show you. I keep it in the fridge and I put it in the whole flock's drinking water twice a week as a preventative. Since I've done this, and since I've used these methods, I have not lost a bird to Marek's in 2 years, except for one. And that one, it was a little black silky, and she was broody during the winter. Excuse me. I tried kicking her out of the egg box, but she just kept going back in. And I thought, you know what? It's super cold out. So I just thought, she's warm in there. She'll come out and eat and drink enough. She'll be okay. Months passed. Probably about 3 months. When she did come out, she could barely walk. And I knew. So I took her to the vet. It was one of the first chickens we ever had. And I said, could you do an x-ray, because I want to know if she's got Marek's disease. So they bring her back, and when they picked her up, they could feel the tumors. They could feel the Marek's tumors. And they brought her back into me. They said, we don't need to do the x-ray because we can feel the tumors from the outside. They actually spread out her wing, and you could see a tumor on her wing. And they also had found that she had a respiratory illness and she had worms. So it's very, very important to keep your birds healthy so that they don't have these other issues, because other issues will bring on the Marek's disease. I recommend, like I said, doing prevention and also giving vitamins and probiotics on a regular basis. Now, there's some things that you'll read if you also do research that people say, you know, this disease only affects young birds and chicks, and they'll always have one leg spread out to the front and the other leg will spread out to the back, and they'll say vaccinated birds won't get it, they'll be safe. Well, I gotta tell you, none of those things were true for me. Don't believe everything you read when it comes to Marek's disease. My birds were older. My birds had a limp. They didn't stick their legs out, one in front, one in back. And you know, this disease was verified for me through a state lab. Another thing that there's a big debate about is vaccinated birds giving Marek's disease to unvaccinated birds. In my experience, that has not been true. Actually, the Marek's vaccine is manufactured from the turkey Marek's. So how could a chicken give another chicken Marek's disease from the shot when it's the turkey strain? It just doesn't make sense. In my experience, I have also rehomed some of my birds that were exposed to the other Marek's birds here. I've rehomed them to people who had unvaccinated birds in their flock. They have never come back to me and said, well, your birds made my birds sick. Now I have Marek's disease here. You know, when I was honest with those people, they knew that I've had some issues here. It's never come up again. Never have I seen a vaccinated chicken give it to an unvaccinated chicken. It's just my experience. There's a big debate about that. So, what else can we do? The veterinary lab technician from the UK gave me a lengthy list of vitamins and minerals, which I will show you here. Okay, first one is olive leaf. I give 3/4 a capsule. Now when I say give, again, I mix this into 1/2 cup of water in a small container and I keep it in my refrigerator. It lasts for about a week, and then you just put some of this in your flock's drinking water, or you give this to a chicken that appears to have Marek's symptoms. The second ingredient is andrographis, and that is 3/4 capsule. You just open the capsules, or if you have tablets, break them up and put it into the water. 1/4 capsule Pau de Arco. 3 tablespoons of liquid elderberry. 3/4 capsule echinacea. 1/2 curcumin. Now, he also had a few other things, but I don't put that into my water concoction. I actually put this right into the feed. Vitamins B and C. Now please don't think you can give vitamin C to chickens from giving them oranges. Citrus can be toxic for chickens. You have to find vitamin C tablets and break them up. Coconut oil and garlic, and powdered cranberry or cranberry tablets. Again, I would just, since those were all powders, those last few things, I would just open the capsules or crush up the tablets and put it right into the feed. Now when I say capsules here, you might find like 150 milligrams, you might find some tablets or capsules are 100 milligrams. This all can be estimated. I have never seen negative effects from giving too much of any of this. The only one I would watch would be the vitamin C. I'll show you what bottles I've been using. Now, this one here, I've been using 545 milligrams. My olive leaf is 500. My andrographis is 300. Echinacea, gosh, I don't even see that on there. 760 milligrams, half of that, because that's 2 capsules. Turmeric, now this says curcumin, but you can't just take the spice curcumin off your spice rack. That's not the same thing. And here, of course, is my St. John's wort, which I use in conjunction with my colloidal silver here. They used to actually use this on people decades ago as a common remedy for many, many different things. It's not as commonly used today, but we're seeing it more commonly nowadays as more people get back into the homeopathic trends and things like that. So again, I'll just show you my board here and the different vitamins, and I have that in my container here. It's not in the fridge because I just used it. And then I keep that in my refrigerator. So that's another thing you can try. And you know, there's going to be naysayers. There's going to be people that say, Marek's is always fatal. Don't waste your time with that stuff. This has worked, and it has worked for me. And I have shared this with other people, various people from all over the U.S. And most people tell me that it works for them too. The people that it didn't work for, some of them came back and said, I couldn't find all those vitamins, or I couldn't afford all those vitamins, but you know, my chickens mean a lot to me, obviously. So about finding the vitamins, well, a lot of these you can find at health food stores, but that's very expensive. So what I would do first is check Amazon, and some of these can actually be found at Walmart. The elderberry syrup is there, the St. John's wort, the echinacea, the curcumin. You know, that's all at Walmart. So again, you know, these methods might work for you. They might not. I think, you know, another important component to this is catching the disease early. I don't think this will work for you if you have a chicken so sick that it can't walk at all, it's not eating or drinking. I have a vet friend that said something to me once that made a lot of sense to me, and I keep it in my mind all the time. She said, if there's a will to live, it's worth a try. Meaning, if they're still eating and drinking and wanting to live, it's worth a try to save them. If they've given up hope and they're not eating and drinking, then sometimes, unfortunately, you do have to euthanize them. But I do everything I can first. There's actually people out there. Penelope the chicken now is one of them. They were in such a bad case that they also used a therapy chair to get the chicken to walk again. Now that's, you can, if you do a search, type in chicken therapy chair, sling chair, and there is somebody that sells these. You can find that if you have the time and the money and the will to put into doing therapy. I haven't had that. I haven't had to do that. Some people do. As far as, you know, talking about the end where this stuff will not work. One other thing to watch for is if they have green poop, because green poop means that the internal organs are no longer functioning correctly anymore. And as sad as it is, there's no turning back from that. So there was hope for me, and you know, I didn't have to give up. Since my deaths from Marek's, I have now 22 chickens. At one time I had 28, but I had so many roosters I had to rehome them. So I'm at 22 chickens. I have raised 3 batches of chicks. None of those chicks have had Marek's disease. I keep them healthy by doing this twice a week. I do the probiotics. I do a multivitamin called Rooster Booster, and I rotate those. I don't free range because I feel that, you know, and they say if you free range your Marek's birds, you're exposing wild birds to Marek's. I'm not sure if that's true, because again, it would be the chicken strain of Marek's. I don't know, but I don't free range because I also view it as, if my birds are out there walking around, they're exposing themselves to getting coccidiosis and getting respiratory things from wild birds, and I have to keep them as healthy as I can so nothing brings those immune systems down, because I don't want this popping up again. Now, as far as my chick experience goes, now that I have Marek's around on my surfaces, the first year what I did was I ordered chicks from a hatchery, again with the best Marek's vaccine available. And I had them shipped to a good friend of mine, and she raised them for me for 6 weeks, because they say the vaccine doesn't fully come into effect until they are 6 weeks old. So I had her keep them at her house, but there was one that was had some health issues and just wasn't keeping up with the rest of the chicks, and she tried and tried, but it just wasn't coming around, and it was only the 4-week mark, and she's like, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, I'll try it. You know, the bird is already alien. I'll see what I can do. So I took actually all of them. I kind of felt bad because here she is putting in all this work and they weren't even her chicks. So I said, okay, we're at 4 weeks. I'll just take them and see. None of them got Marek's disease. Still to this day, every bird, every chick that I have raised here on my property, none of them have died from anything, from respiratory, nothing. My second time around with chicks, I decided things are going so well, I'll hatch them here. So a good friend of mine helped me out, got me an incubator, and I hatched chicks. So from hatch to now, you know, they were during that time frame here where they said, well, they have to be over 6 weeks old or they're gonna get it. They didn't. I actually vaccinated them myself after they hatched. You have to vaccinate within 24 hours after hatching. So I got the syringes and I got the vaccine. Now when you purchase the vaccine on the market, you can only get that basic HVT vaccine. You can't find the Rispens out there. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, the HVT, the basic one. That's the only one that you're going to find available to you for purchase if you're not a vet or something like that. So that's what I had to use, was the main basic one. And again, it worked. It worked great. All my birds are doing well. So again, I think it's, you know, it's a possibility. And you just, for people out there who really care about their birds like I do and don't want to give up, try it. I mean, anything's worth a try when you're dealing with this disease. Don't go out there and burn your coops down if you don't want to, and go out there and kill them all, because you might not have to. I think it really is key, though, like I said, just to reiterate, catching it early.